Hi everyone, my name is Emma and I am here to talk to you about the upcoming astrological transits for the week of July 21st through the 24th. We have an interesting week ahead of us. It is about to be Leo season and we have a Leo new moon coming up, so we are going to be talking about all things Leo, which I'm very excited for because I personally am a Leo moon. So of course I like to talk about Leo and Leo moons. I feel like I am a bit of an expert on the subject. So we're going to kind of jump right in and start by talking about what the sign of Leo represents. Leo is a fixed fire sign, which means that because it's fixed, it deals in maintaining energy, keeping things going, and fire signs are very active, very passionate. So our best example of a fixed fire, of course, is going to be the sun. What is the sun if not a continuously burning ball of fire? And the sun rules over the sign of Leo, which means that it functions very well there. It's very comfortable there. And, the sun represents our ego, our identity, our personality. So one thing you got to say about Leo, even if you don't like Leos, which a lot of people don't, and I will say sometimes Leo energy can be a lot to handle, but you gotta say, Leo has a lot of personality, okay? They are leaders. They are themselves, for better or for worse. So I personally love it for that reason. But like I said, it's not for everybody. However, the sun does function very well here. And another quick example I want to give about fixed fire energy is the flame of Vesta, which, yes, is the name of my YouTube channel, and that's why I'm talking about it. But if you are unaware, Vesta is the Roman goddess of the hearth and the home. Her Greek counterpart is Hestia, and I relate to her a lot. She is my only first house placement. I have Vesta in the first house of identity, and Vesta had a cult of priestesses back in Roman times called the Vestal Virgins, and their job was to tend to her temple and keep this sacred flame burning continuously. There were very high penalties if you did not keep the flame burning. So I just thought that was another good example, because I personally believe that we all have this flame burning within us, and you got to keep it going. And that's what Leo energy is all about, is remembering that you have power, you have energy, that you have so much energy to draw from if you know where to get it. And I don't know, I'm just excited about seeing how this Leo energy plays out. It's going to be a big theme this week, like I said, so I'm very excited for that. And we're going to be thinking about our identities. We're going to be thinking about, who was I, who am I, and who am I going to be? Because Mercury is currently still in retrograde in Leo, so we're going to be drawing on the past and looking towards the future with this trine to Saturn that the sun is making as well. So it should be very interesting. And I want to also give a quick motto for the week, which is, remember who you are. I did steal this from The Lion King because I had to. It was very appropriate, okay? Picture Mufasa up in the sky telling you, remember who you are. Think back to when you were a child. Leo energy can be very childlike, very playful. So think back to those times and what lights you up. What, when you are being truly yourself, who are you? We're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a bit, but I want to now jump into the day by day. So starting off our week on Monday, the 21st, we have the moon in Gemini all day. And Gemini is a mercurial sign. It is very communicative. It is very thoughtful and needs a lot of stimulation. This particular Gemini moon is going to be really interesting because it's highlighting another important aspect this week, which is Venus squaring Mars. This is going to be happening, I think, around 20 degrees. So if you have any personal placements, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, or your ascendant or midheaven around like 20 degrees of Virgo, Pisces, or Gemini or Sagittarius, you're going to be feeling this aspect a lot. And Venus square Mars is a little bit tense. Honestly, I think for sure we're going to be seeing some arguments because Mercury, like I said, is very chatty, and this aspect is very tense, especially with Mars in the mix. Venus and Mars, when they come together, can get very passionate. Also, there might be some sexual tension, just to be honest. Venus is flirty, Mars is full of, wants to take action, so yeah, could be some tension there. You might also find yourself rehashing old beef, because they are going to be ruled by Mercury, which is in retrograde, so that's taking us back to the past. Might be arguments coming up that, oh my god, this thing from 5 years ago, why are we arguing about this again? Or somebody from your past messaging you and you're like, oh my god, this guy, and then you start arguing. So just watch out for that. That's going to be going on kind of all week. So be aware that we have that energy going on. And moving into Tuesday, the 22nd, the moon enters the sign of Cancer at 8:26 a.m. So Cancer is very sensitive, nurturing, introverted. It's a good time to cuddle with your pet and bake some cookies and watch a comforting movie. But before you do that, just be aware that the moon will be squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So kind of feels like some feelings might get hurt. Saturn in Aries is like a boss yelling at you, and then the Cancer moon is like, oh my god, I just want to go home and cry about this. But you know what? We all cry sometimes. Just let it out. Let your feelings out. It's gonna be okay. So we have that energy going on, and about an hour after the moon enters Cancer, the sun enters Leo, which means that both of our luminaries meaning the sun and the moon, are going to be in their home signs. So Cancer is the sign of the moon and Leo is the sign of the sun. As I said, the sun functions very well in Leo. It's full of energy. It's really, Leos are a sight to behold when they're in their full power and glory. It's very regal. Leos are leaders. It's the majestic lion. So yeah, it should be very interesting. And I wanted to mention as well that the sun is going to be trining Saturn and also opposing Pluto. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but that's going to kind of influence the energy of early Leo season, so this week in particular. And let's move on to Wednesday, July 23rd. So the moon will be joining with Jupiter, which means that the moon is in its domicile and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So with the moon and Jupiter coming together in Cancer, this is really a nice energy. I feel like there could be a big emotional release. Might be a lot of people sharing feelings, kind of feels like group therapy or something. And we do have a sextile between the moon and Mars in Virgo in the afternoon. So sextile is just kind of like a helpful little energy. So maybe my advice, which I did last week and it made me feel amazing, was to take an everything shower and like wash my hair, shave my legs, moisturize and paint my nails and just do everything. And afterwards I felt so much better. So I really recommend doing something like that if you're all up in your feelings, which you might be on Wednesday. And Thursday is maybe our biggest day of the week. So Thursday the 24th is the day of the new moon in Leo. This is happening at 2 degrees of Leo. And I want to mention that this will be exactly opposite Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius. So really watch out for this if you have any fixed placements in the early degrees. So fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. If you have placements in the early degrees of those signs, you're really going to be feeling this new moon. Now, new moons deal with new beginnings and planting the seed. I wanted to give a quick example for what this means, because new moons are not visible. Literally, you know, if you think of a full moon, it's very bright, and the new moon, you don't see it all. It's stuff happening behind the scenes. It's very internal. The example I want to use, because we're talking about Leo and also because I'm a former theater kid, is that a new moon is like, you know, not even the first rehearsal or the first audition, but like the moment that you decide that you want to be in a musical and you're like, oh, I got to start picking out what song I'm going to sing to audition. I got to start practicing, and nobody, you know, hears you practicing, and nobody even knows this is going on until your big opening night, which is the full moon. And that sometimes full moons seem like a new beginning because it's new to the world, it's suddenly visible. But before we can get to that full moon, we have to have that seed of the new moon. So this is really interesting when we're talking about Leo, because Leo likes the spotlight. So what does Leo energy look like when it's turned inward? Now, again, I feel like I'm a really good person to answer this question because I am a Leo moon. And I gotta say that when I am by myself, I really like to perform for myself. I like to sing and dance and get my emotions out that way. And, you know, I do perform sometimes for my dog, but a lot of the times she is just like, Mom, I'm sick of you. And then she goes and lays down and takes a nap. And so, yeah, I'm just performing for myself. You know, find some sort of creative outlet. You know, if you are artistic in any way or just something creative, if you like to cook, this is a really good way to work through how you're feeling. So that would be my advice for this new moon. But I wanted to mention the opposition with Pluto, because this is a really important part of this new moon. So Pluto can make things very heavy, and we are going to be facing the shadow side of Leo. So Leo's shadow can look very jealous, very insecure, can also get very arrogant, but on the other side of arrogance is usually insecurity. Can also be very selfish and feeling ashamed. So when we're looking at oppositions, this tends to be, oh, excuse me. All right, so my apologies. My dog required attention and belly rubs. She was crying. So I had to take a little break there. But we are back and talking about the opposition from Pluto with this new moon. So when we talk about oppositions tends to be an external force coming at you, making you face, in this case, the shadow parts of yourself, the parts that you don't like. There might be something that happens that triggers you. You know, your flaws might be exposed. Leo likes to appear to be just totally perfect, and the shadow side of that is like Pluto revealing something to everybody, and you just feel really ashamed and like you want to go hide in a cave for the rest of your life. And like, sure, you could do that, but really you just need to take some time to reflect on, you know, what are my flaws, you know, what can I work on? How can I be better in the future? Because again, like I said, we have this trine to Saturn in Aries. So Saturn is really good at building things, looking to the future. It's trining Neptune as well. So it's like, let's think about visions for the future. What do we want to build? Who do we want to be? So, you know, it might be a heavy new moon, but you can hopefully use this time to really reflect on how you can become the best version of yourself. That is my hope, at least. And if we move on to Friday the 25th, we have the moon joining with Mercury in the early afternoon. Mercury is still retrograde, like I said, at about 13 degrees of Leo. So this is going to be taking us back to the past. This is going to be having us reflect on, you know, who was I when I was younger? You know, what do I want to take with me? What do I want to release and let go from the past? But, you know, what also are the things that I want to bring with me as I move forward? Because there are certain parts of ourself that, you know, will remain consistent from when you are a little kid to when you are 90 years old, which I think is also a good example of fixed fire energy. So yeah, kind of reflect on that on Friday. We're still gonna have that new moon energy kind of going on, lingering a bit on Friday. So yeah, use that to your advantage. And we do also have a sextile with Venus in Gemini, between Venus and the moon on Friday. So this is just kind of some feel-good energy. Hopefully helps put a bit of a band-aid on that harsh Pluto opposition from the previous day. And if we move into Saturday, July 16th, the moon enters Virgo at 4:55 p.m. So moon in Virgo can be very emotionally reserved. You know, you look for comfort through order and organization and finding practical solutions to problems rather than getting all wrapped up in your feelings. You know, Virgo wants to fix things, and they try to process things, process emotions through reason and logic. Another good piece of advice I would give for Virgo moons is to try to find fulfillment by helping others. Virgo is a very service-oriented sign, so that can be a good thing to do as well. I do want to also mention that the moon will be squaring Uranus in Gemini pretty much immediately as soon as it enters Virgo, so there could be a very sudden mood change. Something happens that all of a sudden you were happy, now you're sad, or you were sad and now you're excited, and just might be a sudden change there, or you might feel the need to rebel or do something impulsive. But watch out for that, because again, Mercury's retrograde. Try not to do anything impulsive. Try to really think things through before you do anything dramatic, which of course Leo loves to be dramatic, so just be careful there, okay? And then the moon starts to apply to a sextile to Jupiter, which doesn't hit until Sunday, but that's basically our Saturday, so not a totally bad energy on Saturday. And then on Sunday, there is a Moon-Jupiter sextile in the early afternoon, noon, 1 o'clock. I'm sorry that I don't have the exact times. I have an astrological planner that I've been using for these videos, and I left it at work. And so I've had to kind of rethink how I was going to make this video, which is very Mercury retrograde, very appropriate. So anyway, back to the astrology. We have this nice Jupiter sextile, and after that the moon applies to conjoin Mars, but that doesn't actually hit until Monday. So the energy of Sunday is still just going to be strong Virgo moon energy, kind of intensifying that Venus-Mars square again, which, you know, we're feeling that a lot with the moon in Gemini. We're going to feel it a lot with the moon in Virgo as well. But at this point, Venus and Mars are separating, so hopefully some of that tension will die off just a little bit. And anyway, that is the end of our week. Join me here next week and give me a follow if you enjoyed this video. I love making these videos so far, and I'm going to try to do one every single week. So thank you so much for watching, and have a great week. Bye!